In this experiment, we wanted to explore several things. One was originated from a question Jason Moore asked us after we experienced his project. In essence, it was about including a passive audience in an interactive experience. It was interesting to us to take a different approach than Jason though, and we decided our passive audience wouldn't be in Neos, but instead watching on Twitch. Besides that, we also wanted to take a look at cooperative connections between players and puzzle mechanics. In this experiment, 2 players would have to solve a puzzle together. Both would be separate in a copy of the same room, but one player would have access to half of the information needed, and the second player the other half. On top of that, they would need the Twitch players to discover that information. This way, every role would have a vital part to play in solving the puzzle, and every role would feel important. For communication between the 2 players in Neos, we made walkie-talkies to give them the possibility of verbally communication. We presumed that after talking for a while, they would figure out they were both in a copy of the same room, and then they would be able to understand they were looking at the same things. For the puzzle, we designed a sort of chessboard with 8 pions. In one room, the Neos player would be able to figure out which color pion they needed to put on the board, and in the other room, the Neos player would be able to figure out where on the board the pion had to be placed. When the right pion was placed on the right location, the puzzle would be solved. We wrote the letters of the colors on separate post-it notes, just like the location on the board, and hid those post-it notes in the room. The objects we hid them behind were non-grabbable though, so the Neos players wouldn't be able to move the objects to find the notes. That's where the Twitch audience came into play. They would be able to switch to multiple cameras we put into the room, and with certain commands like move closet, they were able to move the objects in Neos. But in order to figure out the commands, they first need to know behind which objects the notes were hidden, and that's where the Twitch viewers in their turn needed the Neos players. They were able to search the room with a looking glass and find red pins in the objects that they needed. These pins were only visible by looking through the looking glass. We came on this idea after a few iterations. We first had the concept where 2 players would be in the same room, but one of the players would be walking on the ceiling and see other objects in the room. After some testing though, and thinking about how we could incorporate the 2 different audiences with some sort of dependency on each other, this experiment was the final result.